Those were Morimoto's 4Banger LED fog light kits for the 21 to 2023 F-150s. They look great, they fit great, and of course, they shine a ton more light out than those stock fog lights, of course. What's going on, Team Lethal fans? It's Joe here with Lethal Performance. Today, we're going to be taking a look at another lighting kit from our friends over at Morimoto. This one specifically is going to be for the 21 to 2023 F-150s out there, excluding the Raptors. So without further ado, let's go ahead and break open this box and show you guys what Morimoto sent us out today. This is really a cool setup here from Morimoto. Now that I got it all out here on the table, you can clearly see what we're going to be playing around with here today, and that is Morimoto's 4Banger LED fog light kit for, like I said, the 21 to 2023 F-150s, but that is excluding the Raptor. Now you Raptor guys already know you get factory fog light pods in that fancy Raptor bumper of yours there, so that is why this kit will not work with your truck. Now to get back to this kit here, these are meant to be a plug and play bolt-in installation upgrade to replace your OE fog lights, regardless of whether you have the OE halogens or the OE LED lights on your F-150. However, they do have a chart to make sure that these lights will work for you, and they also have a drop down so that you can select whether you have the OE halogens or the OE LEDs, because the wiring is a little bit different depending on which model you have. Their kit comes with your choice of 4 Morimoto 4Banger LED light pods, as well as the harnesses to make it plug and play on your truck, the custom brackets, and the custom housings to make it fit flush on your bumper to give it a really nice OE plus finish. The installation of this kit requires no permanent modification to your truck's bumper or really anything on the truck whatsoever. All of this can be taken off and swapped back in with the original stuff if you choose to do so. However, I think once you have this kit installed, you're not going to be wanting to go back. Like I mentioned previously, this kit does come with the custom harnesses that are made to plug directly in to your truck's factory harness for the fog lights. Now, that obviously makes this install super easy, apart from obviously having to take off some of the front end pieces and components like the bumper and the grill piece. However, once you get everything actually off the truck, the install of the bezels, the brackets, and the light pods themselves couldn't be any easier. It's probably gonna be the quickest part of the entire installation. Just plug everything in, run a little bit of wiring, but there is no coding necessary. There's no relearn on the computer. Everything should just plug and play, easy as that. Now for the color options, Morimoto gives you a couple different choices, whether you want an all yellow setup or an all white setup, or if you want what I actually have here, which is going to be 2 yellow and 2 white fog light pods. Personally, I think that's gonna be the best look on the truck, but to each their own depending on what your build goals are. But Morimoto does give you that option whether you want those all orange or all white or that mix match color. Morimoto also has a choice for which version of their 4Banger LED light pods that you want with your kit. They have their NCS version, which is their standard 4Banger pod, provides a ton of light. Or for you guys out there who are looking for even more light, they have their HXB version of the 4Banger light pods. Now, the HXB version is simply just an upgraded internal version of their standard 4Banger. Now, regardless of which version the 4Banger pods you get, whether it be the NCS or the HXB, the actual outside and that shell of the actual light itself remains the same. It's all about what's on the inside that makes that difference. Now, if you do option for the HXB kit, it is gonna be a little bit more expensive than the standard NCS 4Banger kit. However, if you guys out there are looking for that maximum light output that you can possibly get, the HXBs are definitely gonna be the way to go. Even with the standard NCS 4Bangers, you are gonna notice a huge difference in the light output compared to those factory fog lights. So now I've given you guys a proper overview on this fog light kit here. Let's go ahead and show you how to get it installed on a 21 F-150. Now before we head on out to the truck, there are a couple things that we can still do here in the studio, which is going to be installing these light pods here onto the bracket, and then of course getting the bracket installed here onto this bezel. Now that is basically going to take us to a step where we can then start disassembling the truck, basically install this as one big complete unit, and then plugging everything in should be good to go. So that'll save us a little bit of time outside. All the necessary hardware here in order to get it installed, and for you guys at home, all you'll need to have is a 17mm wrench or socket with a ratchet, as well as a T30 Torx bit. Now, per Morimoto's instructions, the first thing they're going to have us do is install this bracket here for the light pods onto the bezel itself, and that is going to use these smaller screws here that come included with the brackets. That is going to be a T25 bit.
Now while you're tightening these screws here, you do want to make sure that you are not tightening them too much. You don't want to strip out the nuts that are in this bezel here or possibly crack this housing here. They really only need to be snug in there, as they do already have Loctite on the screws themselves, so they shouldn't back their way out as long as they are just a tad on the tight side. We'll go ahead and do the same thing with the other side.
Now that we got the brackets installed on the bezels, we can go ahead and install the brackets onto the 4Banger pods themselves. Now you just want to make sure that these are facing the correct direction and that they are in the upright orientation, and that when you install the bracket, that the bracket is also facing that upright orientation. It should go on just like that. You know it's upright because it has the little Morimoto symbol there on the top of that 4Banger pod. These here are going to use that T30 bit to tighten down those bolts, and you are going to want to use one of the small washers that is provided with the kit. Now another note here before you install this bracket, you want to make sure to install this bolt here on the top half of that bracket, as when you get it all bolted in here, you can't actually get that bolt inside here to be able to get it into its designated slot there. So definitely get that installed before you put on your brackets. We got two assembled here. We'll go ahead and do that with the other two pods. All right, so now with all of the brackets onto the 4Banger pods, we can go ahead and get them installed onto the bracket and bezel assembly. Now you can run these lights in any fashion that you want. However, we're gonna actually do it how it's pictured in Morimoto's product pictures there, with the white light here on the inside and the amber one or the yellow one out here on the outside. Tighten these down using that 17mm. All right, so we got one side all assembled here. We'll go ahead and do this with the other side. Now this side's all assembled, and I think we're ready to go out and start working on the truck. Now that we're outside here with the truck, we can go ahead and get started with the disassembly here to get those Morimoto lights in. The first thing that we're going to need to do is take off this radiator shroud here, which is going to be held in by 14 of these little plastic pins here. Luckily, I've already gone through the hard part of getting those pins out, so we can just go ahead and slide this out here. And we can set this aside. Now that's gonna give us access here to these 4 10mm bolts, as well as some harnesses here and some other plastic pins. You're gonna remove these 4 10mm bolts next here. Next thing we can go ahead and do is disconnect these harnesses here. There's a harness here for a camera, as well as those grill shutters. And then there's also a connection here for the washer fluid sprayer that is up here as well. And then there is 2 little tabs here that hold on the harnesses into their place. Now on each side here, there is 2 7mm bolts. We'll just go ahead and remove those so we can remove this trim panel here. Now with those 2 sides of screws removed, we should be able to go ahead and pull back on this trim piece here and have it pop out from the truck. This is obviously a piece here that has been on the truck since the factory, so she doesn't want to come off super easy, but we're gonna get her to. You watch. Yeah, she goes. Oh no! All right, now that this is off, we're gonna go ahead and set it somewhere safely. Now we can go ahead and remove these last 2 bolts here that hold in the grill. Now with those last 2 bolts removed, this grill assembly should pop right off. So now with the grill removed, we can go ahead and access this harness here, which we'll go ahead and disconnect so that we can remove the front bumper. Next up, we should be able to access those 21mm nuts there that are holding on the front bumper. There are 3 on each side.
There are a couple more sensors here that you have to unplug, as well as a couple tabs here to hold that harness in place. Now, since we have the factory active air dam here, we're going to have to remove this assembly before we can get to the fog lights. We're going to do that for both sides. Now, with this assembly out of the way, we should be able to get to these T30 bolts that are here, 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 and here. That'll take this stock factory assembly out. Stock assembly should just slide on out. Now, before we install any Morimoto assemblies, they actually have us reinstall the air dam. Now we'll go ahead and remove this bolt here, and before we install this last bolt here for the air dam, we're going to go ahead and install our Morimoto light. Now we can go ahead and install this last bolt, and we'll go ahead and reuse this bolt here from the old fog light. Now we'll go ahead and repeat this on the other side. Now, before we install the front bumper, we're going to go ahead and run the harnesses here that Morimoto says to do. Basically, they have us a couple different relayed harnesses here, and because we have the OEM LEDs, there are going to be 2 relays in the circuit. So we're going to go ahead and just route all these harnesses like it states to do in Morimoto's instructions. Basically, you have a ground and a positive here that's going to go to each terminal on the battery, and then you have basically the lines going to the fog lights. Now, there is also one here, which is a switch. Now, this switch is going to be traded out here for the OE harness connector adapter that Morimoto provides with the kit here. So we'll go ahead and set that switch to the side and just have this laying here ready for that OE harness. So we've got the passenger side harness running now through the engine bay down here. It goes on the inside of that fender liner, and then it actually pops out real nicely right down here with all the plugs you need. So we'll just go ahead and do something similar on the other side with the other harness. So we have both relay harnesses ran here. We went ahead and rounded them from the battery here down to each side. As you can see, we've got the pigtails for each the light and the harness here on the other sides here. So we're just about ready to hang that bumper up here. We're gonna just basically hang it just a little bit just so that we can plug in those harnesses. But yeah, we're pretty much ready to go here. Morimoto lights did not make this bumper any lighter, that's for sure. Might I say it is recommended to have an extra person help you out with the bumper, because it is a heavy bitch. I guess it's not that heavy, but it is just kind of awkward if you're doing it by yourself. So now with the bumper hung, we should be able to just plug in our harnesses here from the top half of the truck that we routed earlier. And then that factory harness for the fog lights should be hanging down here. Here she is. Nice. Everything clicked in there. We'll go ahead and do the same with the other side and then tidy up the wiring. Okay, clicked in. The stock harness here for the fog light. Okay, that clicked in. We can go ahead and reinstall the rest of the nuts here onto the bumper. You can go ahead and plug in all the harnesses also that we once removed. So now with all the harnesses and stuff ran, we can go ahead and hook up everything to our battery terminals here from the relays. Now, like I said, there are 2 relays here, so we are going to have 2 positives and 2 grounds. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and route our relays over here where the fuse box panel is. That should give us plenty of area there to work with as far as the positive and the ground go. So let's go ahead and get that going. Now we're going to hook both of the positives onto the positive battery terminal here, but we are going to use the negative on the body here, on the chassis right here, which is just below this hood strut here. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Now with the power all hooked up here to those relays, we can go ahead and finalize our wiring, clean everything up here, and make sure everything gets out of harm's way. So now with all the wiring all tidied up down here and out of harm's way, we can go ahead and start reassembly of everything that came off. Starting things with the grill. We've got everything back together. Radiator shroud is on, all the push pins are in, all the bolts are tight. We don't have any leftover hardware. I guess we'll go ahead and close the hood and test these things out.
Just to give you guys a little bit of comparison here, at nighttime, these are the stock fog lights on the F-150. This is with headlights on. And now here it is with the Morimoto fog lights. This is just the fog lights. This is with headlights on, much brighter with the Morimoto products. And that is gonna do it, guys. Those were Morimoto's 4Banger LED fog light kits for the 21 to 2023 F-150s. As you guys can see, install went pretty smoothly. They look great, they fit great, and of course, they shine a ton more light out than those stock fog lights, of course. Now, apart from the actual functionality of those fog lights producing a lot more light than those standard fog lights do, they do give a nice aggressive edge on the front of this truck here and help give it a little bit more of an off-roader vibe. They work pretty much all the same as the stock fog lights do. However, you do lose that daytime running light that initially was going around the edge of the fog lights here. However, I do have it disabled on these headlights here, so you really don't notice losing that functionality there when the headlights are on. However, just like the stock fog lights, these 4Banger fog lights will activate when you turn the steering wheel to a certain angle, whether you're turning left or right. They will turn on either side of the fog light when you're making a corner, and obviously you can disable that function if you don't want to blind people as you're turning corners. If you guys have any questions or you're looking to grab a set of these fog lights for yourself, feel free to reach out with us in the links in our description, drop a comment below, or reach out with us at 561-753-8105. This has been Joe with Lethal Performance, and I'm out of here. Totally white. They allow you to select. Oh, I burped.
Oh no! It tricked me. I thought you ran, bitch. It's crushing my finger.